looking at the Facebook one because it gives you a countdown. So we're on now. So let's get real. That's what we're going to be doing for the next 4 talks. Getting real, that's a theme. And I pose this question to you. Are you ready to get real about life? About relationships? Yes. About personal transformation, actually, how it's taking place in your life?
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, if you are, those of you that answered, the rest of you can just sit there and listen. Then this is for you. This is for you because each week we will get real about an important aspect of our lives by bringing a large dose of reality with a capital R to the table. Bringing God, because anything with the cap in it that's not the beginning of a sentence is describing the infinite, the infinite. So today we kick off where we are going to get real about an idea that is very, very prevalent in our New Thought teachings. And it's the idea that life gives us lessons, and often difficult lessons, to test our faith and our spiritual resolve. But is that really the case? Does life give us those lessons? Life gives us lots of different things, but does it give us lessons? Does it really give us lessons to test our resolve and our faith by presenting us with these difficulties? And you've probably heard this statement that's been attributed to Mother Teresa. I know that God won't give me any more than I can handle, but I wished he would stop testing me so much. And is that true? Is that really, really true? Is there a force outside of us that is giving us these difficult lessons in life? Again, we all have things that we go through in life. Well, I do not believe that life is giving us lessons. And when I say life, I do mean God, or testing us in any way. So I'm hoping that today you leave here and can release that belief. I do not believe that God tests our faith or our spiritual resolve. And if you do, maybe today you can release that also. I do not believe one bit, and my prayer, any of that, one bit, but my prayer and my intention is that after today, you don't either. And would you like to know what I believe? I think most of you know. And what I invite you to believe with me? I believe that God is, and this is from Ernest Holmes, I believe that God is the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness to all. And I absolutely, completely believe that there is no room in that statement for a God/life to give us these difficulties, pain, and adversity. What I do believe is that I invite you into this morning. What I do believe is there is a power for good, and that good is always working in, through, as, and for us. That's what these teachings that we talk about in the classes, in the workshops, every Sunday, it's about empowering us to be our best self, that life gives us good, period. Everything else we're going to discuss this morning. Let's take a really deep breath, because this is kind of personal. It's personal responsibility time. Don't you just love that? At a very high level. I believe that the essence of our being, the God of our being, the eternal and internal spark of life that only wants to be fully expressed through and as us is calling us to have these experiences in our lives so we can become the person that we were made to be, we were born to be, that we came here into this whole realm of humanity to be, through all these different challenges, difficulties, pain. Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, tells us, page 31, Science of Mind book, we reach out to infinity, and since we cannot encompass infinity, we shall always be expanding and always enlarging our capability to know and to experience. The universe is always expanding. It's always expanding. It is not stagnant, it's fluid. So therefore, as creations out of this universal stuff, we too are always expanding, and we are called to grow into our true selves. And that's something that is so important for us to get on a really deep level. And said in another way, we bring these experiences into our lives so that whatever is standing in the way of our expanding and enlarging our capacity to know our infinity, our divinity and infinity can be dissolved and released, can just be let know. I can just look back over my life, which I can now say I'm a wise woman, right? After a certain age, you get to be wise. Hopefully, I can say I can look back and see how each of those things that if they don't destroy you, you just persevere through them. You just persevere through them. But how they brought such richness, such lessons, such incredible freedom into my life. But you got to go through them. And you got to know that you are a child of God. You are God. You're not even a child of God. Each and every one of us is God. One substance, one consciousness, one universal love. But it's so much easier to blame someone else, isn't it? It's like so much easier. It's their fault. If they weren't here, this wouldn't happen. They made me do this. They made me act this way. But really? Who does the action? Who does the thinking within you? There's only one of you that can do that. But what if we could bless everyone? That would be a huge step forward. Bless everyone and their lessons here on life, even though we don't agree with them. Embrace them and give thanks for them, because we know that they are here for us. They are here for our expansion, our growth, our new levels of understanding what we truly are. It's so magnificent. I've been noticing more and more in my feed, in my news feed, on my phone and tablet, that scientists are discovering more and more about consciousness, more and more about this God hole, more and more. They're trying to understand it, but it's amazing. Now they are identifying this wave, because everything's in particles and waves. This whole wave of consciousness is really connected to one substance, one. Because that's the truth. That's what we talk about. But do we know that fully to our very core, that we are responsible for how we respond to anything in our life? Well, here's a great parable, and it's not one by Jesus, who is the master of parables. This is a parable nonetheless, and it's one that all these stories today I've repeated before, but they fit in here so nicely, I'd like to repeat them again. And if your memory's like mine, you won't remember them, so it's good. It's all new. Once upon a time, there was a young woman who was experiencing some significant challenges in her life. She did not know how she was going to make it, and she just wanted to give up, just to give everything up. She was tired of fighting and struggling, and it seemed as one problem was solved, another one would appear. So she went to her father for comfort and support. Her father, who happened to be a chef, took her to the kitchen, and he sat her down at the kitchen table, and he filled 3 pots with water, and he put them on the stove, the fire underneath them, a high fire. Soon the pots all came to a boil, and in one he placed carrots, and another one he placed eggs, and in the third one he placed coffee beans, ground coffee beans. And he let them boil for 20 minutes without saying a word. The daughter waited rather impatiently and getting very annoyed. This was taking so long, wondering what he was doing. In about 20 minutes, he turned off all 3 burners, and he fished out the carrots and put them in a bowl. He pulled out the eggs and placed them in a bowl, and he ladled out the coffee into a cup. Turning to her, he asked, "What do you see?" She says, "Carrot, eggs, and coffee beans, ground coffee beans." He brought her closer and asked her to taste the carrots. She did, and they were soft, mushy, and tasteless. In fact, they were pretty much ruined. Then he asked her to try an egg. After pulling off the shell, she bit into a very, very, very hard egg. It was inedible. Finally, he asked her to sip the coffee. She smiled as she tasted its rich flavor. Confused and more than a little annoyed at the time, that the time had passed and there was no comfort, there was a lack of comfort and support. She did not feel that from her father. She asked, interesting experiment, Dad, but what does it have to do with me and my problems? He explained that the carrots, the eggs, and the ground coffee beans each faced the same severe adversity, the same amount of time boiling in the water, yet each reacted differently. The carrot went in strong and tough, but after being subjected to the boiling water, became weak and mushy. The egg, which had been fragile to begin with, held together by a thin outer shell, after being boiled for 20 minutes, became very hardened inside. The ground coffee beans, however, were unique. Even after they boiled for 20 minutes, they did not really change. They stayed true to their nature. They did, however, change the water. So, are you the egg, which starts off with a soft, fluid center, but in the face of challenges becomes hardened, and the shell may looks the same, but the inside is hard and tough? Something gone. Or are you the carrot that seems strong and tough, but with pain and adversity, do you wilt and become soft? You lose your strength. Or are you like the ground coffee beans? They did not change. They stayed true to what they were, and in the face of adversity, they changed the world around them. They changed the water into coffee. He then said, "My darling daughter, the best comfort and advice I can give you is to be like the coffee bean. When things are at their worst, remember, you stay true to who you are. And by staying true to who you are, you change the world around you." So, when someone says to you, "Are you like a coffee bean?" you will reply, "Yes. Yes! I'm going to change the world around me. I'm not going to let these adversities and all of its difficulties really knock me off my feet and keep me knocked off my feet? I want to add that you will become more and more of who you were meant to be. We aren't on this earth playing merely for success. We are here to learn. I always say this is a learning planet. This is where we learn. This is where we grow. This is where we expand. And some of those challenges and difficulties are gut-wrenching. They are so difficult to go through. But go through them we must. And change and learn from them. Learn from them. It's our higher purpose. Each and every person I know has a higher purpose. Each one. Doesn't have to be some grand, great big thing. It could be just being a kind human being. Could be like Mother Teresa. She was very humble. I want to bring 4 quick ideas in here. Bring them into your awareness, since everything's awareness, as you embrace this way of looking at life lessons. The first, we can't escape growth experiences. Can't escape it. There's a story that's told of Ptolemy, the king of Alexandria, who once expressed impatience at Euclid's elaborate explanation of geometry. "Isn't there a shorter way of learning geometry?" asked the king. "Sire," replied Euclid, "in the country there are 2 roads. One is a hard road for the common people, and the easy road is for the royal family. But in geometry, all must go the same way, and there is no royal way to learning." There's no easy way to learn. It doesn't happen by accident. All of these experiences do not happen by accident. It is our journey. It is our path in the human experience. It is what we signed up for. Truly. That's what I believe. Even though sometimes when you're going through it, it doesn't feel that way. But, you know, since math is the universal language, you can't argue with it. Second, all of these experiences are repeated until we get them. Our growth opportunities are repeated until we get the growth. Sometimes we hear a wake-up call, but prefer to pull the covers over our head and go back to sleep, so much easier, and dream a little bit longer. We may ignore, resist, and rationalize or blame these experiences for a considerable amount of time. And that's okay, because our schooling is entirely self-paced. But the opportunities for growth keep coming until we change. Until we change, they'll keep coming back. Third, they get more challenging. So we ignore them. We ignore them. I look back and think, all the things I ignored, right? And it's like, in my face, ignore that, until. If they don't get easier, they get harder. Our resistance to growing reaps more dramatic consequences over time, not to punish us, but to get our attention. Because we ignore all of the small little ones thinking we can get through it. And as I like to say, that universal 2x4 will come at us at some point. It's for us to get the lesson of our life so we can grow and expand and be free. And if we ignore them, they go away, they change outfits, they get their friends, and they all come back. It's the truth. Fourth, this may seem daunting, but we can grow. Just as when we are learning the rules in mathematics, as they did for Ptolemy, the king of Alexandria, life's challenges may seem daunting or overwhelming. Nonetheless, we have the ability to grow from every experience, to release that which no longer serves us, You know, we get all these beliefs when we are younger. That helps us survive and get through some maybe difficult times in our lives. And then we get older, and then it's like we don't need that shield anymore, but it's still there. And it keeps us from really experiencing the beauty of who we are, because it keeps us walled in. Our heart chakra is completely closed, and so that love and that beauty cannot express. So we can take some comfort in these words from Ernest Holmes. Even in our troubles, we are not cast down, and though we appear to be deserted, we are not destroyed. All our experiences are working to that end. To the end that we learn the lessons of life and return to the Father's house as freed souls. That means to return to our natural self, free of all that toxic, free of all that toxicity, free of all of that stuff that we have allowed to take place in our lives. The purpose of every growth opportunity is to heal the belief in separation. And every step of the way, the infinite source of good will fill us. It is conspiring for our highest and best all of the time, all of the time. And it is as close to us as our breath, as near to us as our hands and feet. So I want to end this with another parable. And this one I also told recently, but I feel like someone here needs to hear it, so I'm going to tell it again. So there was a group of women in a Bible study group, and they were studying the passage at Malachi 3:3, which says, "He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver." The verse puzzled. It puzzled the women in the Bible study group, and they wondered out loud what this statement could possibly mean. One of the women took it upon herself to find out how this process of silver could relate to this verse and get back to the group. That week, she called up a silversmith, made an appointment to watch him at work. She didn't mention anything about the reason for her interest to him, beyond her curiosity about the process of refining silver. As she watched the silversmith, he held a piece of silver over the fire and let it heat up. He explained that in refining silver, one needs to hold the silver in the middle of the fire where the flames are the hottest to burn away all the impurities. The woman thought about how sometimes we are in hot spots in life and blame God for putting us there. Then she thought again about the verse. He sits as a refiner and purifier of silver. It still didn't make sense. She asked the silversmith if it were true that he had to sit there in front of that fire the whole entire time while that silver was being refined. The man answered, yes. Not only do I have to sit here holding the silver, but I have to keep my eye on the silver the entire time. It's in the fire. It is the silver. If the silver is left for one moment too long in the flames, it will be destroyed and ruined. The woman was silent for a moment. Then she asked the silversmith, how do you know when the silver is refined fully? He smiled at her and he answered, oh, that's easy, when I see my image in it. If you feel that you are being held to the fire, and sometimes it feels like that in life, remember, you are not being tested. You're not getting a quiz on life. No one's giving us a quiz, okay? Number one, you have called it in for some reason or another. We don't have to know right now. But to know that the image of God is in everything. It's in us. It's in our experiences. It's in everything we do, say, feel, that we go through in life, so that God can be expressed more fully as each and every one of us. And so this next 4 talks is about that releasing. It's about saying yes to life. And it really is about getting real about what's mine to do and what is mine not to do. And so it is.